Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into it. Today, we're cracking open the ultimate historical cold case, Atlantis. For literally thousands of years, this story has straddled that tricky line between a philosophical myth and a total historical obsession. But today, we are stripping away the fantasy and using hard facts on the ground to finally solve it.
So, we're opening the files to answer the absolute ultimate question. Was this lost city an actual real place, or is it just one incredibly captivating legend? To figure this out, we've got to cut through the noise. That means setting aside centuries of Hollywood movies and pop culture rumors, and zeroing in strictly on the mainstream historical and archaeological evidence.
To get to the bottom of this, we're treating this like a rigorous detective story. Here's our agenda for today. First up, Plato's original legend. Second, we'll look at the prime geographical suspects. Third, the real archaeological evidence. Fourth, we're debunking those Atlantis myths. Fifth, we'll explore modern submerged archaeology. And finally, we'll deliver our verdict.
All right, Section 1, Plato's original legend, basically our initial incident report. You see, Plato didn't just casually name-drop this place. He laid it out in vivid detail, claiming the whole story was passed down from the Greek statesman Solon after a visit to Egypt. Plato outlined this incredibly wealthy society totally defined by its advanced architecture. It really gives us our very first profile of the suspect. We're talking about a utopian metropolis with these massive concentric rings of water and land, highly advanced canals, a mighty, totally unmatched navy, and grand temples plated in gold, and this legendary glowing metal he called orichalcum. According to Plato's dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, this was an absolute superpower of the ancient world. It honestly defied the engineering capabilities of that entire era.
But here's the thing. Plato didn't just describe a utopia. He gave us a cinematic, genuinely terrifying account of its destruction. He explicitly wrote about, quote, violent earthquakes and floods, stating that in just a single day and night of misfortune, the entire island vanished right into the depths of the sea. Wow. It's a description of total annihilation. And honestly, it's the specific detail, that sudden, catastrophic end, that has completely driven explorers to scour the oceans for centuries. This just brilliantly illustrates the incredible contrast sitting right at the heart of the legend. Think about it. On one hand, you have an apex civilization, unimaginably rich and sophisticated for its time. But then, on the other hand, boom, instantaneous geological destruction. It's this exact dynamic, the ultimate rise meeting the ultimate fall, that makes the story structurally perfect. Actually, maybe a little too perfect for a philosopher just trying to make a point. Which naturally leads us to ask, where could this have actually happened? Moving on to Section 2, the prime geographical suspects. Where did this actually happen? So when we take a step back and weigh the physical evidence against the geographical theories, a super fascinating picture emerges. Take Santorini and the Minoan civilization, for instance. The volcanic destruction of the advanced settlement at Akrotiri, that's historically verified, no doubt. But it totally fails to match Plato's timeline or his specific location in the Atlantic. Then you've got Spain's Doñana National Park. Now, its marshlands do vaguely match the geography described, but there are absolutely zero ruins to back it up. And what about the literal Atlantic Ocean theory? Well, it matches Plato's text perfectly, but modern tectonic plate science tells us that a sunken continent right in the middle of the Atlantic is, frankly, a geological impossibility. To really wrap our heads around this gap, we have to look at the timeline. There is a massive 1,200-year historical gap between the very real, devastating Minoan eruption around 1600 BCE and when Plato actually sat down and wrote his story around 360 BCE. Just imagine trying to accurately describe a disaster from over a millennium ago, relying purely on word of mouth. It heavily suggests that Plato was likely channeling these distant, deeply ingrained cultural memories of the Thera eruption, but kind of warping the dates and details to serve his own philosophical narrative. That brings us to Section 3, Real Archaeological Evidence, where we examine the actual forensics. Okay, here's the harsh reality of our cold case. Despite centuries of scouring ancient maps, and honestly, despite decades of modern deep-sea submersibles mapping out the ocean floor, the city remains entirely missing. I mean, sure, we found countless shipwrecks and long-forgotten coastal outposts along the way, but we found absolutely zero definitive trace of Plato's exact utopian city. No golden temples, no massive concentric canals hiding out in the Atlantic, nothing. All right, Section 4, Debunking Atlantis Myths and Dismissing the False Leads. You know what they say, nature abhors a vacuum, and that is especially true for an archaeological one.
Because of this lack of hard evidence, the void has been filled with some pretty wild speculation over the years. So, major apologies to the sci-fi fans out there, but we have to completely dismiss the claims of alien technology, crystal energy grids, and ancient superweapons. I mean, yeah, they make for absolutely fantastic Hollywood blockbusters, but in the realm of actual real-world marine archaeology, these are just baseless distractions from the genuinely amazing realities of human antiquity.
Let's move to Section 5. Modern Submerged Archaeology, the New Forensics.
Instead of chasing after myths, modern marine archaeologists actually use a really rigorous three-step methodology to gather tangible data. It all starts way up in space with satellite mapping to detect anomalies in shallow water. After that, sonar scanning is brought in to create these highly detailed 3D maps of the ocean floor. And finally, remote-operated robots are deployed to do the actual physical investigation. And get this, it's this exact tech that led to the discovery of the very real sunken Egyptian city of Thonis Heracleion. So science is absolutely revealing incredible truths down there. They just happen to be real facts, not Plato's fiction.
And finally, Section 6, the final verdict, closing the case.
So here's where we land. Historians and archaeologists have essentially reached a consensus on this cold case. Atlantis, as a literal pinpoint on a map geographic location, just did not exist. What it was a brilliant, fictional allegory designed by Plato to warn the Athenians about the dangers of hubris, greed, and moral decay. But the true genius of the whole story is that it was almost certainly inspired by the very real, genuinely terrifying destruction of actual civilizations, like the Minoans on Santorini. Basically, Plato wrapped a timeless philosophical lesson right inside a disaster story that was so incredibly compelling, we are literally still searching for it today.
While the myth of Atlantis is undoubtedly going to live on in pop culture forever, its true legacy is that it pushes us to look deeper. I mean, think about it. The oceans cover over 70% of our planet, and the vast majority of that is still completely unexplored. It leaves us with this totally thrilling reality to ponder. If Atlantis was just a legend, what real, magnificent, submerged civilizations are actually out there, just waiting in the dark to be discovered? Something to think about. Thanks for joining The Explainer.